Matthew 20 kicks off with one of Jesus' most debated parables, the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Let's set the scene. A landowner goes out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agrees to pay them the standard daily wage, a denarius, but he doesn't stop there. He goes out again at 9, at noon, at 3, and even as late as 5 in the afternoon, hiring more people each time. He tells these later groups he'll pay them whatever is right. Now, here comes the twist. When evening arrives, the landowner tells his manager to pay everyone, starting with those who were hired last. And guess what? The workers who only put in 1 hour of work receive a full denarius. Imagine the excitement of the early morning crew. They've been toiling all day under the hot sun. They're thinking, if the 1 hour guys got a full day's pay, we're in for a massive bonus. But when their turn comes, they also receive just 1 denarius, the exact amount they agreed to. Naturally, they grumble. They complain to the landowner, "This isn't fair. We worked all day, and these guys who just showed up get the same as us." Their sense of justice is offended. But the landowner's response is key. He says, "Friend, I am not being unfair to you. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous?" This parable isn't really about labor laws or economics. It's a powerful lesson about God's economy of grace. In God's kingdom, the rules are different. We don't earn our salvation like a wage. It's a free gift, given out of God's incredible, almost scandalous generosity. It doesn't matter if you came to faith as a child or on your deathbed. The grace offered is the same. This story challenges our human tendency to compare, to keep score, and to feel entitled. God's grace isn't based on our performance or seniority. It's based on His character, which is one of radical generosity. Jesus concludes the parable with a statement that turns our world upside down. So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Right after this mind-bending parable, the mood shifts. Jesus pulls His 12 disciples aside and gets brutally honest with them. For the third time, He predicts His own death and resurrection. He lays it all out in detail. He'll be betrayed, handed over to the chief priests and scribes, condemned to death, turned over to the Gentiles to be mocked, flogged, and crucified. And then, He adds the crucial part. On the third day, He will be raised to life. Imagine hearing this from your leader, your friend. It's heavy, it's dark, and it's a stark reminder of the cost of the mission they're on. But what's truly astonishing is what happens next. It seems like the disciples just don't get it. Or maybe, they can't handle the reality of what Jesus is saying. Because immediately following this somber prediction, we get a scene that shows just how far their minds are from the reality of sacrifice. The mother of James and John, 2 of the inner circle disciples, comes to Jesus. She kneels before Him and makes a bold request. "Grant that one of these 2 sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom." She's essentially asking for the 2 most powerful and prestigious positions in Jesus' coming kingdom. James and John are right there with her, so this is clearly their ambition. 2. After everything Jesus just said about suffering and death, they're still thinking about power, status, and glory. Their focus is on personal gain. Jesus' response is patient but direct. He turns to the brothers and says, "You don't know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink?" This cup is a biblical metaphor for suffering and God's wrath against sin, the very thing Jesus just finished describing. Full of bravado, they reply, "We can." They have no idea what they're agreeing to. Jesus acknowledges that they will indeed share in His suffering, and history tells us they did. James was the first apostle to be martyred, but he tells them that the positions of honor at his right and left are not his to give. They are for those for whom they have been prepared by the Father. He's redirecting their ambition away from self-promotion and towards submission to God's will. Now, you can probably guess how the other 10 disciples reacted when they heard about this. They were indignant, not because they were more spiritually mature, but because James and John had tried to get a leg up on them. They were all caught up in the same game of rivalry and ambition. They all wanted to be the greatest. Seeing this division and jealousy, Jesus calls them all together for a crucial teaching moment. This is one of the most important leadership lessons in the entire Bible. He says, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you." He draws a sharp contrast between the world's model of leadership and the model for His kingdom. The world's way is power over. It's about dominance, control, and using your position for personal benefit. Think of a typical corporate ladder or political structure. The goal is to climb to the top so you can have others serve you. Jesus says, that's not how we do things. Instead, He presents a revolutionary concept. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. This is leadership turned on its head. In God's kingdom, greatness isn't measured by how many people serve you, but by how many people you serve. The path to the top is the path down. It's a path of humility, of putting others' needs before your own, of choosing to serve rather than be served. And then, Jesus gives the ultimate example to anchor this teaching. He points to Himself, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many. This is the heart of the gospel. Jesus, the King of Kings, the Son of God, didn't come demanding VIP treatment. He came to wash feet, to heal the sick, to comfort the broken, and ultimately, to give his very life on the cross. His sacrifice was the ultimate act of service, a ransom paid to redeem us. So, the greatness James and John were seeking wasn't wrong in itself, but their path to it was completely backward. True greatness, true honor in God's eyes, comes from imitating Christ's own life of servant-hearted sacrifice. This is a message that is just as countercultural today as it was 2,000 years ago. We live in a world that celebrates self-promotion, personal branding, and getting ahead. Jesus calls us to a different way, the way of the servant, as if to provide a living illustration of everything he's just taught. The chapter closes with a powerful healing story. As Jesus and his disciples are leaving Jericho, a large crowd is following them. 2 blind men are sitting by the roadside, and when they hear that Jesus is passing by, they begin to shout, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." The crowd, in a classic display of trying to manage Jesus' reputation, rebukes them and tells them to be quiet. They see these men as an interruption, a nuisance. But the blind men refuse to be silenced. They cry out even louder. Their desperation and their faith are undeniable. And what does Jesus do? Does he ignore them, annoyed by the interruption? No, he stops. In the midst of this large, moving crowd, he stops for the 2 men on the fringe of society that everyone else was trying to silence. He calls them over and asks a simple, dignifying question. "What do you want me to do for you?" He doesn't assume their need. He invites them to voice it. They reply, "Lord, we want our sight." The text says Jesus had compassion on them. That word compassion in the original Greek is powerful. It means to be moved in one's innermost being. This wasn't just pity. It was a deep, gut-level empathy. He felt their suffering. He touched their eyes. And immediately they received their sight. And what was their first act with their newfound vision? They followed him. This final scene perfectly encapsulates the themes of the chapter. The disciples were arguing about who was greatest, while Jesus demonstrates true greatness by stopping to serve the lowest. He gives his time and power not to the influential, but to the desperate and marginalized. He shows that true leadership isn't about seeking positions of honor, but about having a heart of compassion that moves you to action. So, as we reflect on Matthew 20, we're left with a profound challenge. Are we living by the world's rules, or by the rules of God's kingdom? Are we keeping score and comparing ourselves to others, or are we resting in the scandalous grace of a generous God? Are we seeking power and position, or are we looking for opportunities to serve, to wash feet, to be like Jesus? Are we the crowd that tries to silence the needy, or are we, like Jesus, willing to stop and show compassion? This chapter calls us to a radical reorientation of our values, centered on the heart of service and sacrifice, modeled perfectly by Christ himself. Thank you so much for joining me today to explore this incredible chapter.